Discover the incredible journey of a waitress transformed by a storm, an elderly woman, and a bakery's legacy. Ellie stood behind the counter of the Twin Pines diner, her everyday sanctuary, where sizzling burgers and the clatter of silverware harmonized with familiar faces. With a smile that could light up the dreariest days, she did more than serve, she nurtured, easing each patron's burdens just by being there. At 25, life had thrown her more than a fair share of challenges. Her mother's illness weighed heavy, and her younger brother, too naive for this world, depended on her more than she dared admit. Yet, amidst the chaos, she held on to a dream, a yearning to create, to break free from the shackles of her everyday grind. That fateful evening, the winds picked up, turning the loyal Dakota skies ominous. A storm unlike any other rolled in, and Ellie watched in horror as clouds eclipsed the sun, drowning her hopes in shadow. Rain hammered down, water gushing through the streets, ripping lives and homes apart. The diner, usually bustling with chatter and laughter, trembled under nature's wrath. Ellie rushed to help others, her heart racing as she navigated flooded streets to check on her neighbors. But the fury of the storm swept away more than buildings, it devastated spirits. When the chaos quieted, the heart of the small town lay fractured, and Ellie felt that familiar ache in her chest. Days passed, and in the rubble of destruction, she found Ruth. An elderly woman with storm-cloud blue eyes that told tales of resilience. Ruth's family bakery had fallen, swallowed by floodwaters, but her spirit remained unbroken. Sitting on the diner's rickety stool, Ruth shared stories of her late husband, a proud soldier who de-anchored their community. Each word ignited something deep within Ellie. She could see the light in Ruth's tales, illuminating a path forward. Together, they could restore the bakery, a historical haven for many, a piece of love and memory that deserved saving. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But their alliance wasn't without friction. Ruth's worldview was steeped in tradition, while Ellie's heart raced towards uncharted dreams. They bickered over recipes and renovation plans, the old and the new clashing amid their shared vision. Yet, there was an unspoken understanding. Both women carried burdens, both were shaped by loss and love. Just as they began to find their rhythm, a sleek, expensive car pulled up outside, and with it, the threat of change. The out-of-town investor appeared, intentions clear. He wanted to tear down the bakery, to erase a piece of their town's fabric for a sterile big-box store. Rage ignited in Ellie's heart. Torn between her responsibilities to her family and this glorious fight for their community's legacy, she chose loyalty. Rallying the townsfolk wasn't easy, hearts were heavy, and hope flickered like a candle in the wind. Yet, she stood before them, a beacon of raw determination, reminding them of family, of history, of love, what it meant to belong. As the day of the town hall meeting drew near, doubt crept in. Would they truly stand united? Would her ambition overshadow the values they cherished? With the stakes rising, Ellie found herself questioning not just the outcome but her own heart. Did she seek power, or was it connection she truly longed for? As Ellie stood at the precipice of their shared struggle, one question remained: could they protect what they held dear, or would the shadows swallow their dreams whole, just as the storm had? The room felt electric, tension buzzing through the air as Ellie stood before the townsfolk at the community center. Faces she knew well, neighbors, friends, even the elderly who had watched her grow up, turned their eyes to her, waiting. The bitter smell of coffee mingled with the faint scent of despair, filling the spaces between them. "I know it's hard," she began, her voice barely cracking through the thickness in her throat. "We've all lost so much." Her gaze swept over the crowd, meeting the hopeful eyes of Ruth, who sat in the front row, a small fire still flickering in her heart. But if we let them take our bakery, we lose more than bricks and mortar. We lose our history, our connection. Ellie's passion poured out in waves, fueled by the memories of laughter and warmth that had once flowed through the bakery doors. Ruth's husband fought for this town. He stood for our dreams, and we cannot let those dreams disappear just like that storm took our homes. Her arms gestured wildly, and the murmurs in the room started to shift, faces hardened with resolve. As she continued, a voice pierced through the newfound determination. But do we have what it takes? It was Mel, a longtime resident known for her skepticism. Can we really stop an investor? The doubt hung in the air like fog, threatening to snuff out Ellie's fire. But instead of retreating, Ellie felt a rush of strength. We have something he doesn't. She took a breath, glancing at Ruth beside her, now at the center of their fight. We have heart, and we know this community. Together, we can rise again. She could see the flicker of hope ignite in the eyes around her. Murmurs went from hesitant to spirited whispers of agreement. This was more than a bakery, this was about standing firm amidst the storm, about fighting for their ties, their stories, and their future. As the meeting progressed, they shared ideas, pooling resources, talents, and dreams. Someone suggested throwing a fundraiser, others proposed community gatherings featuring Ruth's baked goods, sharing flyers to raise awareness. Each suggestion built upon the last, fueling an enthusiasm that Ellie hadn't felt in weeks. The evening ended with an air of excitement, voices ringing out into the night, and Ellie left the center feeling unusually light. The bond forged among them felt stronger than the storm, though remnants of uncertainty still lingered. Would this really be enough? As she walked home, the weight of her brother's needs tugged at her thoughts once more. Could she balance her responsibility to him with this new fight for the town? The question loomed, heavy and determined, just like the clouds that hung thick over the town. Finally, she slipped into the warmth of her empty home, and the familiar scent of faded memories wrapped around her like a worn blanket. She paused, letting it sink in. Things might finally be shifting. Yet beneath the flicker of hope, another question danced in her mind: if they succeeded in saving the bakery, would it truly bring peace to the ache inside her heart, or was this just the beginning of a much larger storm? The battle was just getting started, and Ellie sensed that the next wave would test her more than anything ever had. How far was she willing to go to defend not just a bakery, but everything that mattered? A new day dawned, breaking through the remnants of last night's storm, casting a soft light across the small town. Ellie awoke with determination pulsing in her veins. Today was the day they would plan their first fundraiser. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe, as if the storm outside had finally begun to recede, leaving behind a landscape filled with possibilities. Her kitchen, though cluttered, was a comforting sight as she brewed coffee. The warmth of the mug against her palms steadied her racing thoughts. She imagined the bakery filled with fresh pastries and the laughter of children enjoying cookies after school. It was more than just food, it was the heart of their community. Ellie gathered her notes from last night's meeting, her heart swelling with pride as she recalled the faces around her, the words of encouragement. Ruth had already started planning for the baked goods to sell, and Ellie felt a surge of gratitude for her unwavering spirit. They were going to do this together. With her brother Tom's needs lingering in the back of her mind, Ellie shook her head, trying to dispel her worries. If they could rally the community, perhaps it would ease the burden on them as a family. It was time to put her own fears aside. After a quick breakfast, she grabbed her jacket and headed into town. The streets, washed clean by the rain, glistened in the sunlight, making them seem alive again. She spotted familiar faces along the way, neighbors who nodded and smiled, their expressions filled with hope. Each interaction fueled her resolve. At the community center, they began to gather. The room buzzed as they discussed ideas, tossing around thoughts like confetti. Ellie noticed Ruth, radiant as ever, handing out samples of her baked goods. Not just any baked goods, but the same recipes her husband had loved, recipes that held history and warmth. I say we have a pie-eating contest. Boomed Mel, her skepticism softening with excitement. Laughter erupted, filling the room, and Ellie felt her heart lift. Maybe we can partner with the local band, someone suggested. They could play while people eat and donate. Ideas bounced around like fireflies in the night. With each pitch, Ellie felt her energy surge. Every plan brought the team closer. They were not just fighting for a bakery, they were working for each other, their families, and for Ruth's dream, built on years of love and dedication. As the meeting wrapped up, Ruth pulled Ellie to the side, her eyes brimming with gratitude. "You've brought us all together, dear. And you remind me of my husband. He always believed in community," she said softly. The compliment struck Ellie deep, filling her with a warmth she hadn't anticipated. But lingering at the back of Ellie's mind was that nagging worry about Tom. They still had bills to pay, and his health was a priority. What if this fight took too much time? She took a deep breath, pushing those thoughts back once again. Leaving the center, the sun shone brightly overhead. Ellie's heart raced with anticipation for the upcoming events, but her mind remained a whirlpool of worries and excitement. Just when she thought she was gaining ground, a sharp realization tugged at her: the investors weren't going to sit back and let them create this momentum without a fight. She wondered, if the storm outside had passed, what would the next wave look like? Would it come from the outside, or would it rise within her, leaving her to grapple with a choice no one should have to face? Ellie stepped outside, the bright sky mesmerizing her with its vastness. This battle was just beginning, and within its chaos, she sensed both danger and possibility. How could she prepare for the storm on the horizon, one that could change everything? Ellie took a deep breath, letting the fresh air fill her lungs. She felt the warmth of hope rising inside her, but it mingled with a tight knot of anxiety that wouldn't let go. The day ahead was filled with promise just as much as it was fraught with uncertainty. As she walked through the town square, a flicker of movement caught her eye. It was Mrs. Jenkins, the local librarian, fiddling with a poster for the fundraiser. Ellie rushed over, ready to lend a hand. "Good morning, Mrs. Jenkins. That looks wonderful," she said, feigning more confidence than she felt. "Oh, dear, thank you. I'm just trying to get the word out," Mrs. Jenkins replied with a warm smile. "You know this town needs something to bring everyone together again." Ellie nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. It wasn't just about the bakery. It was about rekindling the community spirit. As they worked together on the poster, Ellie felt more anchored. But just as they put the finishing touches on it, a dark cloud loomed over her heart. She remembered the investors' thoughts she wanted to suppress. What if they turned against this warmth? What if they succeeded in tearing their dreams apart? That evening, she gathered with Ruth, Mel, and a few others at Ruth's house. They spread out the plans on the kitchen table, the air thick with excitement and the rich aroma of freshly baked bread. "Let's brainstorm more ideas," Mel said, rubbing her hands together. "What can we offer to draw people in? A bake-off, activities for kids?" Ellie liked the sound of that. "We could set up booths with games," she suggested. "We can even ask the high school kids to help volunteer. They'll love the chance to earn community service hours." Ruth's face lit up. "Oh. And we can feature something from each of our baking traditions. That would showcase our community's diversity." The conversation rolled on, quick and lively like the spark of fireworks. Ideas flowed freely, laughter echoed through the kitchen, and for the first time in days, Ellie felt the darkness lift. Her heart soared, the weight of worry momentarily suspended. But just as plans started to solidify, they heard a knock. It was Tom, standing at the doorway looking worn and tired. Concern immediately swept over Ellie. "Hey, buddy, how was your day?" she asked, trying to hide the rush of panic inside her. Tom forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just the same. I got some paperwork done." Her heart sank. Did anything come in the mail? He looked away, scratching the back of his neck. Nothing important, really. Ellie's insides twisted into knots. It was tough enough balancing the bakery plans with the weight of Tom's illness, and her intuition couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to get even tougher. As the group resumed their planning, Ellie couldn't concentrate. Every laugh felt tinged with a bittersweet note, each idea weighed down by the shadow of uncertainty in her mind. What if Tom's health took a turn for the worse? What if the investors didn't just threaten their plans but their very foundation as a family? Yet the flicker of hope remained. They were all together, united in purpose. By the end of the night, as Ellie drove home, she felt the spark of determination reignite within her. She glanced at her phone. A message blinked on the screen. It was from Ruth, asking if they had thought about creating a community quilt to symbolize their bond and resilience. She smiled, but deep down another worry swelled. Would that quilt hold together or unpick under pressure? As night fell and the stars peeked out overhead, Ellie clenched the wheel, her heart racing. There was still so much ahead, and no guarantee of calm. But she had to believe in the foundation they were building. How could she muster the courage to face both the expected challenges and the ones she feared the most? The journey was just beginning, and Ellie knew she had to be ready for whatever would come next. But was she truly prepared for the storm brewing right beneath the surface? The next morning was crisp and vibrant. Ellie woke up to the sun streaming through her window, bathing her room in golden light. She tried to shake off the discomfort of the previous night, but the worry still clung to her like a stubborn shadow. As she prepared breakfast, she glanced at Tom, who was still asleep, his breathing steady but shallow. Today is a new day, she whispered to herself, clutching her mug of coffee. The aroma filled her senses, and she took a moment to lose herself in the warmth of the steam rising from the cup. She needed the strength for the challenges ahead: the fundraiser, the investors' looming decisions, and the silent burden Tom carried. Ellie made her way to the bakery, excitement buzzing through her like electricity. She arrived to find Mel already in the kitchen, her hair pulled up in a messy bun and flour dusting her apron. "Good morning, Ellie. We've got a lot to do before the fundraiser," Mel chirped, her smile infectious. "Right. I was thinking we could start on those special cookies that represent each tradition," Ellie said, her heart lightening as they discussed ideas together. As they worked, the door jingled, drawing Ellie's gaze. A few more familiar faces appeared, neighbors and friends who had come to lend a hand. Each one brought an assortment of supplies and ideas for the big day, and soon the bakery transformed into a lively hub of purpose and camaraderie. Despite the encouraging atmosphere, Ellie felt the pinpricks of anxiety still pop up every time she glanced outside. She spotted the investor's office a few blocks away, its presence like a storm cloud hanging over her. If they denied the funds or imposed new conditions, everything could come crashing down. "Earth to Ellie." Mel waved her hand in front of her. "You okay?" Ellie forced a smile, but her heart was miles away. "Yeah, just thinking about things." "Things like the investors?" Mel asked, lowering her voice. Ellie sighed. "You can't help it, can you?" "Not really. But hey, let us focus on today." Mel nudged her shoulder. "We've got this, and remember all these people here. They believe in us. We're a team." A collective determination sparked in the room. With laughter and teamwork, the hours sped away. As the afternoon sun began to set, Ellie's heart surged with a sense of hope. Finally, she felt that elusive strength she had been searching for. Just when she thought the day couldn't get any better, a familiar face appeared at the door. It was Mrs. Jenkins, clutching a stack of colorful quilt squares. "I thought we could use these for the community quilt today. Each square represents a piece of our story," she said, laying the fabric on the table. Ellie felt a swell of emotion. "This is beautiful, Mrs. Jenkins. The quilt will truly symbolize our unity." But as she admired the squares, a message on her phone drew her gaze. It was a new email from the investors, and her stomach dropped. "Excuse me a sec," she murmured, stepping outside to catch her breath. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, and as she read the email, her heart raced. The investors were moving in a surprising direction, one she hadn't anticipated. Suddenly, she felt lightheaded, the world around her fading as she braced herself against the bakery's wall. "What have they done?" she whispered. In that moment, Ellie had a choice to make. Would she face the storm head-on, or retreat into fear? She took a deep breath, steeling her resolve as she prepared to share the news with her friends, knowing this could change everything. How could they rally together now amidst such uncertainty? Would the quilt they were stitching together be enough to hold their dreams intact? Ellie stood outside the bakery, the late afternoon sun painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, but all she could focus on was the cold weight in her stomach. The email had laid out conditions she hadn't expected. They wanted a larger cut of the profits, with new guidelines that felt like shackles around her dreams. Her heart raced, pounding in her chest like a thunderstorm. She wished she could ignore it, but that wasn't an option. Gritting her teeth, she glanced back into the bustling bakery. Her friends were laughing, flour dusting their noses as they rolled out dough and arranged vibrant decorations. They looked so carefree, and here she was, holding the potential for their dreams in the palm of her hand, yet feeling like she might crush it. Taking a deep breath, Ellie stepped back inside. The smell of cinnamon and sugar wrapped around her, tugging at her heartstrings. She couldn't let fear dictate her choices, not when everyone was relying on her. As she moved closer to her friends, Mel caught her eye, her expression shifting from bright enthusiasm to concern. "Ellie, what's wrong?" Mel urged, concern etching her brow. I just got some news from the investors," Ellie said, her voice tremoring slightly. "They want more control over the bakery. It's not what we discussed." Gasps filled the room, the laughter stealing away in an instant and turning to hushed murmurs. Ellie could see the realization dawning in their eyes, the weight of uncertainty creeping into the festive atmosphere. "What do they want?" a neighbor asked, fists clenched with worry. "They want a bigger cut. They're saying we'll have to follow stricter guidelines." "It feels wrong," Ellie's voice faltered. "I can't help but think they're just trying to take advantage of us." "Ellie, we survived so much together," Mrs. Jenkins said, stepping forward with calm wisdom gleaming in her gaze. "What we're building here is something beautiful, something they can't take from us without a fight." Her words resonated deep within Ellie. This was more than just about finances, it was about community, dreams, and connections they had nurtured. The quilt Mrs. Jenkins had brought was a symbol of their unity, every stitch a testament to hope, each square a fragment of their shared stories. "But how can we fight them?" Ellie's voice wavered, fear creeping in again. "What if they pull funding altogether?" "Then we find another way," Mel interjected, her spirit unwavering. "We've come too far to back down now. There are other funding options. And we always have our community. We can raise money at the fundraiser. It's not just about investors, it's about us." Ellie felt a spark of hope, igniting slowly within her. "You really think we can do this together?" "Absolutely," someone said, followed by an agreement from the crowd that gathered. "We believe in ourselves and in what we've created here." Suddenly, they were all talking over one another, ideas bouncing around like popcorn. Ellie watched, feeling a swell of emotion rise in her chest. As plans began to form, a wave of lightness swept over her. She saw their determination, their fire. The quilt laid on the table, bright and alive, was no longer just fabric, it was a promise not just to survive, but to thrive. "Okay," Ellie said, her voice now steady. "Let us take this challenge head on. We will create something that they can't ignore." With that declaration, they all turned back to the preparations. The bakery hummed with renewed energy and purpose. The laughter returned, mixed now with an undercurrent of resilience. But just as Ellie felt herself lifted by their collective spirit, her phone buzzed again. Glancing at it, her heart raced anew. It was a message from one of the investors, and this time it sounded even more severe. "Guys, I think things are about to get even more complicated." Her stomach dropped again, bracing herself for what would come next. The community was ready to rally, but would it be enough? Could they handle the storm? Ellie's heart raced with anticipation, knowing everything now depended on how they would respond. Would they rise together and forge their own path? She held her breath, ready for anything that was about to unfold. The air inside the bakery buzzed with new ideas and an infectious sense of hope. Yet, as Ellie stared at her phone in apprehension, a feeling of dread pooled in her stomach. She took a deep breath, trying to prepare herself for whatever news awaited. Her fingers trembled as she tapped open the message. "Ellie, we need to talk. If you can't meet our terms, you should be aware that we'll have to reconsider our support. Let us discuss it this week." The clock seemed to freeze. She could feel the weight of the words, an avalanche of anxiety threatening to crush her resolve. Swallowing hard, she looked up at her friends, their faces alight with determination, and yet they were unaware of the impending shadow looming over them. "Ellie?" Mel's voice broke through the fog, her brow furrowed in anticipation. "What does it say?" It's not good," Ellie stammered. Panic squeezed at her mind. "They want to talk about the terms again, they're serious about reconsidering support." Gasps rippled through the room. The previously vibrant atmosphere turned heavy, filling with uncertainty. Ellie's heart ached, knowing this wasn't just about her. It was about all of them: the late nights, the blooming friendships, and the dreams sewn into every recipe. "But we won. Let them win, right, Ellie?" Mel's voice rang strong with defiance. "We're not backing down. We have our fundraiser coming up. We just need to double down and show them what we really stand for." Ellie smiled weakly, but inside, worry gnawed at her. What if they couldn't raise enough money? What if the investors didn't care about their passion? Her eyes darted back to Mrs. Jenkins, where she found an unexpected calmness radiating from the older woman. "Maybe, just maybe, it's time we explore our own options," Mrs. Jenkins suggested softly. "What if we reach out to the community directly? People will support our bakery if they know what's at stake." Her words sparked something in Ellie's chest, a flame that flickered insistently. "You mean like a community event? We could showcase our baked goods, share our stories, and invite everyone in. Maybe even have a raffle or a silent auction." "Yes. We could have local musicians, maybe a booth for crafts," Mel jumped in, her eyes shining with excitement. "We can make it a celebration of everything we've built together." Ellie felt the energy shift. Hope was finding its way back in, igniting a shared fire among them. They could funnel their fears into action, create something that echoed their strength. As they all began brainstorming loud and fast, the noise became a symphony of possibilities. Out of the chaos, one thought pierced through Ellie's mind: if they pulled together, the community would rally. But the questions didn't completely fade. What if they couldn't pull it off? What if they failed? Suddenly, Mrs. Jenkins pulled Ellie aside, her voice low but firm. "You need to remember, Ellie, this bakery is a heartbeat. It's not just about products, but about the love we put into every detail. Trust in that connection. If we shine as bright as we can, they won't have a choice but to see us." Ellie felt a rush of gratitude. This was about more than profits, it was about their spirit, their fight, and their community. "You're right," she nodded, feeling her doubts drift away. "They can't overlook who we are." As the team vowed to transform the flour-dusted space into a stage for their dreams, Ellie couldn't shake the sensation that this was just the beginning of something monumental. Bathed in the warm afternoon light still spilling through the windows, they began mapping out the event, pouring heart and soul into every idea. But just when the chatter hit a crescendo, Ellie's phone buzzed once more. A new message popped up on the screen. She hesitated, dread swelling in her chest. "Please let this not be bad news," she whispered, bracing herself as her friends fell silent, eyes trained on her. "What now?" Mel asked, the anticipation thick in the air. With a shaky breath, Ellie opened the message, and her heart raced. What waited on the other side could change everything. Once again. The stakes were higher than ever. Would they be able to pull off their fundraiser, or would they be forced to face an end they never saw coming? Ellie's heart pounded in her chest like a drum. The words on the screen blurred as her vision doubled with anxiety. Her friends leaned closer, their eyes wide, each of them held captive by the tension that filled the air like static. It's from the investor," Ellie finally managed to say, her voice trembling. "They want to meet in person. This Friday." The room seemed to hold its breath, and Ellie felt a sinking sensation in her stomach. Friday felt so close, an impending storm on the horizon. Mel frowned, biting her lip. "What do we do? We can't go in empty-handed." "Right," Ellie replied, refocusing her thoughts. "We need to blow them away. Show them that we've got something they can't ignore." Mrs. Jenkins nodded firmly. "We'll prepare. We'll gather all the success stories, the customer support letters, everything that paints a picture of who we are and what we mean to this community." "Exactly," Mel added, her mind racing with ideas. "We'll have today, tomorrow, and Thursday to pull it all together. We can do this." The momentary excitement flashed in the air, igniting in their hearts. But as quick as it came, Ellie's doubts flickered back. What if it wasn't enough? "Let us outline everything we'll need," Mrs. Jenkins said, her voice a soothing balm. "Let us start with the events leading up to the fundraiser. We can gather the stories from everyone. Each little success counts." Ellie felt her spirits lift a bit. "I can reach out to our regulars, maybe they'd be willing to share a few words about what the bakery means to them." Just then, a small bell chimed, signaling the entrance of a customer. A little girl, no older than 6, bounced into the bakery. "Can I help?" she squeaked, her curls bobbing as she raced over to Ellie. "Of course." Ellie smiled, momentarily distracted from the pressure weighing her down. The girl wanted to help? It was charming, and Ellie felt her heart warm. "How about we start with some sprinkles?" As Ellie moved behind the counter, she felt a flicker of hope that felt nearly real. The little girl poured sprinkles into a small cup, her giggles bringing a lightness to the hectic atmosphere. "Look! My mom says your cupcakes are the best in the whole world," the girl exclaimed, eyes shining with excitement. Ellie's chest tightened, and she bit her lip to hold back the rush of emotions. Could they really be the best? Maybe there was something special here, beyond numbers and investors. "What's your name?" Ellie asked, kneeling to meet the girl's sparkling gaze. "Lucy," she chirped, bouncing on her toes. "And I love helping." Their laughter echoed in the bakery, reminding Ellie of the joy they created with each pastry and every loaf of bread. As the day turned to evening, the team gathered around a worn table, crammed with ideas and plans. "We need to create a list of everything we want to say," Mel suggested, jotting down points on a napkin with a worn-out pen. "We'll start with the emphasis on community." Ellie's mind whirred with thoughts about the event. The community event could help shape everything, gather support. But how could they showcase their purpose in just a few days? The weight of the challenge felt heavy again. Yet, as they scribbled ideas and shared stories, laughter filled the space once more. It was contagious, lingering, a reminder that they were all in this together. Suddenly, an idea sparked in Ellie's mind, brightening her gaze. What if we included personal testimonials at the fundraiser? Real stories from the people we've touched, like Lucy's mom. They could speak for us. Yes. Mel exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. We can create a wall of gratitude. Everyone who has found a moment of joy in our bakery can leave a note. Ellie nodded, adrenaline spiking as enthusiasm flooded the room. They could turn what had seemed like a death knell into something that breathed life and love. Ellie glanced at her phone, a new message notification flashed. And there it was again, that familiar wave of apprehension washing over her. The fear of failure still loitered, creeping at her edges. But she had to know, whatever was coming next could be pivotal. Would it deter them or propel them forward? She took a deep breath and swiped open the message, holding tight onto the moment, ready to embrace whatever was thrown her way. What awaited her on the other side could change everything again. Ellie stared at her phone, the screen lighting up her anxious face. The message was from an unknown number, and her heart raced at the thought of what it might contain. She opened it carefully, breath hitching in her throat. Hi Ellie, this is Jenna from the investor group. Could we set up a call today? I have some thoughts I'd love to share before our meeting on Friday. Ellie's stomach twisted. A call? Just what she needed. Uncertainty, before they even had a chance to present themselves face to face. The room felt like it was closing in on her, and she could hear her heart pounding. Ellie? Mel's voice brought her back to the present. What does it say? It's Jenna. She wants to talk before Friday, but I don't know. Ellie whispered, the lump in her throat growing. Wait, maybe that's good news? Mel suggested. Her brow furrowed with concern but glinted with optimism. She might have questions, or she could want to know more about us. Or she could want to change the entire pitch, Ellie muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. She dropped her head into her hands, fresh thoughts swirling, doubt mixed with the flicker of hope that she'd felt just moments earlier. Mrs. Jenkins leaned in. Ellie, you can do this. You're not alone. Just take a deep breath. Call her back, and we can prepare together. Moments later, Ellie found herself pacing behind the counter. She could hear Mel and Mrs. Jenkins debating ideas, but her mind was awash in what-ifs. She was about to take a step that could sink or swim their plans. The phone rang, the sound slicing through the air like a knife. She stared at it, paralyzed. Ellie, go for it, Mel encouraged, nudging her shoulder. Taking a deep breath, Ellie hit accept. Hi Jenna, this is Ellie, she began, her voice quivering slightly. Hey Ellie. Thank you for returning my message, Jenna said, her tone warm and inviting. I was really impressed by your proposal, and I have a few ideas that might strengthen your pitch. Ellie listened with rapt attention, her fingers fidgeting as Jenna continued. Each word was filled with an undercurrent of possibility, pulling Ellie along as they discussed strategies and story pitches. As the conversation progressed, Ellie felt the weight begin to lift. Jenna wanted to know about their impact on the community, about the stories behind the pastries. She wasn't looking for graphs or pie charts, she was interested in heart and soul. And those testimonials you mentioned? They add a personal touch. Share the love, Ellie. People connect with stories, Jenna urged. Ellie's heart swelled with relief. Thank you, Jenna. We're planning to gather letters and some spoken stories too. Perfect. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Friday is going to be exciting. The call ended, leaving Ellie buzzing with adrenaline. She turned to her friends, who were anxiously watching her every move. She's on board with testimonials. Ellie exclaimed, her voice brighter. And she loved the idea of sharing community stories. The room erupted into cheers, laughter filling the space as relief washed over them like a warm hug. See? You've got this. Mel exclaimed, and Mrs. Jenkins reached across the table to squeeze Ellie's hand. But as the adrenaline began to settle, Ellie's earlier doubts crept back in. Could they really portray the bakery's spirit in a way that deeply resonated with the investors? What if, in their excitement, they missed something crucial? "We need to make this wall of gratitude and our stories absolutely shine," Ellie declared. "Let us gather as many as we can. The more personal, the better." As the plans resumed, the warmth wasn't just in their laughter but in the bright glimmers of hope and determination surrounding them. But, lurking in the corners of her mind, uncertainty still gnawed. As they prepared to close the bakery for the night, Ellie glanced at the dimly lit space, the smell of baked goods lingering in the air. She took a moment to breathe it all in. This was their heart, their community, their fight. But what would happen if they failed to capture that heart when it counted most? Just before they closed the door, a figure appeared in the window, a familiar face, someone who could either uplift or shatter all their hopes in one fell swoop. Would this unexpected visitor be the support they needed, or would it throw everything off balance? The next day brought a bright sun filtering through the bakery windows, filling the room with optimism. Ellie arrived early, her heart racing with determination. She had just received a stirring call from Jenna. Their meeting was feeling increasingly positive. Ellie's mind buzzed with the stories from the community, memories flooding back like warm light, Lucy's mom's laughter, Ruth's strength, the whispers of joy shared over pastries, and all the lives touched by the bakery. With the buzz of excitement, she gathered her friends. "Today is crucial," she declared, urgency tinging her voice. "We need every testimonial we can get. Let us spread the word and showcase all that we've built together." Mel and Mrs. Jenkins rallied the team, sending them out into the town like a parade of hope. They visited homes, local businesses, and other community spots, collecting stories and encouragement. Ellie felt a heartwarming sense of unity as face after face lit up at the thought of giving back to the place they loved. As they gathered feedback, Ellie wrapped it all together. They ended up with a mountain of heartfelt stories, warm letters, and a collection of voices echoing the same truth: the bakery was a home for everyone, a sanctuary that weathered the storms together. Each story collected was like a stitch in the quilt they had discussed, a tangible representation of their bond. They pasted these testimonials on a wall, creating a vibrant tapestry of community love and resilience, ready to present to Jenna. Later, the day of the meeting arrived. Tension coiled through Ellie's stomach as she stood with her team in the bakery, nerves building. She felt a mix of excitement and fear. What if this wasn't enough? What if the investors were still determined to impose their will? As the clock ticked, Ellie paced back and forth, stealing glances at her friends. Ruth, Mel, and Mrs. Jenkins stood together, embodying strength. Each smile displayed courage in the face of doubt. They were all in this fight together, and that fueled Ellie's resolve. When Jenna and the investors arrived, Ellie felt a sudden rush of adrenaline. Her heart raced, yet she faced them with the strength of her community behind her. They presented their ideas, their passions spilling forth like the warm aroma of freshly baked bread. "This bakery is more than a business, it's our heartbeat, the essence of who we are," Ellie began, her voice strong. She shared the testimonials, urging each story to mingle with the ambience of hope. Jenna was enchanted, leaning forward with genuine interest. She smiled, nodding as the stories unfolded. The atmosphere buzzed with energy as Ellie spoke of late-night baking sessions, the triumphs that emerged from failure, and how they supported one another through thick and thin. When they finished, Ellie watched as the investors exchanged glances, a conversation brewing. Instead of dread, an unexpected relief washed over her. There was sincerity in Jenna's gaze, a flicker of understanding that they had reached deeper than just profits, they had touched something beautifully human. Finally, Jenna spoke. This was heartfelt and authentic. "We recognize the importance of what you've built, and we're willing to accommodate your vision and adjust our proposal." Ellie's heart lifted. Her breath caught as she realized that they were not only heard but truly understood. As they wrapped up, the warmth in the room reflected the very spirit they had channeled into the bakery. They had not just saved their dream, they had transformed it into something brighter. Together, they stepped out into the world, basking in the golden sun and the sweet scent of possibility. Ellie's heart brimmed with joy as her friends hugged her tightly, laughter spilling out like sunshine. They had triumphed over the storm, emerging as a united family, ready to nurture the roots that made their community blossom. "Now, let us get back to work," Mel proclaimed, bouncing on her toes. The excitement bubbled among them as they realized the fundraising event was a celebration of their victory. The backdrop for their stories that would continue to emerge. Ellie felt lighter than ever, each step was filled with promise. They had done the impossible. Together, they would continue to weave dreams, one stitch at a time. As they returned to the bakery, laughter echoed around, painting the walls with stories yet to be told. They understood that they were more than a bakery, they were a family, woven together in the fabric of love and resilience, forever ready to face whatever storms may come next. In this new chapter, Ellie knew she had found her path, and she would never let go. You need to subscribe now to follow more amazing stories. Hit that bell and make sure you join our growing family. Leave a like right now to help spread the word about our journey. Comment below what emotions you felt through this roller coaster ride and how you connect with Ellie's story. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You never know who might need a little inspiration today. Don't wait not even one more second.